Indeed, we have things to say about this. So I will try to keep with the time and go through all the main highlights that we want to show. So before going any further, just to set the frame here. So I am not the Secretary General. I'm the director of Euromontana, which is a multi-sectoral association dedicated to cooperation and development of mountain areas. Multi-sectoral in the sense that we have a broad range of different actors being in our association. So the idea is to represent the full diversity of the communities from mountains, and our work is for the benefit of the mountain communities. We're not representing one specific value chain over the other. We try to work with all the actors that make mountain lively places to be. So you see here on the map, we are in 17 countries, and we have, depending on the year, between 60 and 70 members, as I said, ranging from farmers to research organizations through municipalities and so on. Now, I think the European framework was presented when it comes to mountain products, so I don't want to go through that. Just as Serafin said, I'm going to focus on the EU optional quality terms, which, as you might know, there are only two in the EU regulation, one for mountains, one for EU's outermost regions. And I will focus on the one on mountains. What a surprise. So what is this optional quality term? It's in one slide. It's going to be pretty clear. And that's also what we like about it, that it's very simple. It's a regulation that says that both the raw materials and the feedstuff for farm animals have to come essentially from mountain areas, essentially because, of course, there are very specific figures. For products of animal origin, 2/3 of the life of the animal has to be in mountain areas. For feedstuff, for example, there is a percentage of annual animal diet that has to be produced in mountain areas, so it depends a little bit on the animal. And also very interesting, the processing of the product has also to be in mountain areas. So in practice, it's up to the member states to implement this as often, and member states have the option to allow a derogation of 30 kilometers outside what they consider to be the mountain area for processing. So, for example, if you produce your milk in the mountain, you can process it up to 30 kilometers outside of the mountain area to have your final product. This is not mandatory, it's a derogation, and as you will see, some member states are not using it at all. Member states are responsible for organizing the controls, to decide whether they want to use a special logo, whether they need to have pre-authorization or any sort of notification, and whether there is a database in place to keep track of the use of this quality term. So the European picture is pretty diverse. You see here, this is a map of the country that have implemented in the national legislation the EU regulation, so only the ones in blue, and in orange, the one that have not done it yet or who will never do it. Who knows? So this is from 2020. So in case there's something has changed, I apologize in advance, but this doesn't change the main message of my presentation. So the main expected benefits for this quality term is to enable farmers to better market their product, of course, and to give more clarity to the consumer. It's also a way to prevent a fraudulent use of mountain product, as we all have seen in the last decades that people use it a bit randomly and sometimes fraudulently. It's also an alternative for producers who cannot access, for any sort of reason, the other quality schemes that maybe are very well in place, as such as the one that have been presented before. So that's a very good tool in principle. So now let's see in practice what it means on the ground. And I will show you 3-4 examples that are very representative of the different levels of implementation. And I will start with the maximalist approach, which is from Romania. So in Romania, it has been implemented in a way that there is no derogation of 30 kilometers. Everything from the product and the processing has to be from the mountain area itself, no exception. There is a process of pre-authorization for farmers, and they go directly in a database after they have been authorized to use this quality term. everything is centralized by the National Mountain Agency. There was a strong dissemination campaign with a specific logo, which you can see here. And I think up to 2021, there were more than 2,000 products registered on that database. So as I said, it's maximalist in the sense that they use they really try to control it and to push it. So there was really a political will to push this. So at the end, it's not a very flexible system because it's very centralized, but there has been a very good uptake. So as far as we are concerned in Euromontana, we are very happy to see that there is a member state that has implemented to the full extent of what they could do. So it's centralized, so it's not so flexible, but at the same time, it helps a lot for the publicity, for the control, for the verification. There is a logo, which helps for the communication of the scheme. There is insurance for the consumer that the product is really from mountains, and there is no confusion because there was a national campaign to communicate about this. But also there was a campaign for the farmers themselves, so the uptake was really, really pushed. Now, let's go one step below that, and I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying it's a different way of approaching it. In Italy, the farmers have to notify the regional authority, and then they can use the term. So they notify, they don't wait for pre-authorization. So that's already a bit more flexible. The derogation of 30 kilometers is not really there, but for milk products specifically, there is a 10 kilometers derogation only. The reason is that nobody wanted to have mountain milk from Milan. So they reduced the derogation to 10 kilometers so that they could still have the derogation for the other food products, but they would avoid a strange situation in the north of Italy with the milk. In 2020, so these are the last figures we had for Italy, there were 615 producers registered on the database, and there was a national logo adopted in 2018. So, it's similar to Romania, but a bit more flexible. So the uptake was good. There was not such a strong communication about it, but still it was a pretty good result. And the scheme is credible because the derogation system makes sense, it's reasonable, and it's simple. There is only a notification, no pre-authorization, and there is a database to help with controls. And you can see here one example of how it's used on the milk product, for example. And what is interesting to see is that the mountain logo is used alongside other labels related to traceability, environmental concerns, animal welfare. I mean, it's supposed to add to the value and the narrative behind the product. So it helps market it. At least it is perceived like this. Now, going to France, it's another step below in the implementation, in the sense that farmers can use the term without any sort of pre-authorization or notification. So there was a good uptake, but there is no database, so it's really hard to see how the controls are going to be facilitated, or to keep, to really monitor the actual uptake in figures. No database, no figures. Also, the derogation of 30 kilometers is there. There is no, it's not as strict as in Romania, and there was no logo. So far, there is no logo, at least for mountain products in France. We know from some of our members in France that there is an effort, for example, in the milk value chain, to lobby for such logo to be established in France. But so far, nothing has been done on this. Two examples here of how the optional quality term was used. So one is for the pork industry, one for the milk. And again, in both cases, it's really a way to put the spotlight on the farmers, on the fact that the conditions in mountain areas are different, that they need specific attention, and that when you buy this product, you're supporting farmers in mountains, with everything that it means in terms of image and quality. So again, it's a way to better market the product and to make them different from other products that don't come from mountain areas, maybe a bit more industrially processed. So this is how it's been used so far. Quickly on Germany. So in Germany, the implementation is very similar to France, but there hasn't been any uptake as far as we know. And again, it's from 2020, so maybe things have changed a little, but there was no, it hasn't really taken off. It's not good or bad thing. I will tell you later, but it's interesting to see that for the similar implementation, you have different results. To go further, you can find a full study that we did 2 years ago on how it was implemented in the member states. So you have a bit more countries. I gave you really the most representative situations, but you can have everything on our website in French and in English. And the question now that we have, because it's already 2 years ago that we did that, it's what comes next. So first of all, we need to, and we will do that on our side in the coming months, we will have updates on the figures that we have shown there to see if there is any major difference. But what really we need, and that's why I'm also happy that the Commission is not planning to change anything for now on the regulation, is because we lack feedback on this. What we want is to better understand the impact of the optional quality term. We need to understand if the expected benefits have been realized. We also need to know specifically what has been the consumer perception of this, whether there has been an impact on the farmers' revenues, whether the quality term itself is an incentive to relocate or develop new value chain in mountain areas to maybe benefit from more better condition for the marketing of the products. Does it contribute to the economic resilience of the value chain if you use it or if you don't use it? How the farmers are handling economic downturns? And what are the best use cases for them? Are they good as an alternative to other labels? Are they better as a complement to other schemes, as we've seen in Italy and in France, where it's part of a narrative on the product? It's not the only one, it's together with others. So we really need to understand this. And we also need to understand if there is an overlap or complementarity with the other, the PDO, and the other geographical indication that have been mentioned before. So to conclude on this, and I hope I was not too fast in trying to be on time, the optional quality term for us is a very interesting tool. And we acknowledge and we fully accept that it's not relevant everywhere for everyone, and that is 100% okay. But where it is useful, it's a very good tool to have, and we definitely need to promote that. So for example, if you remember the map that I've shown before with the countries that have not implemented in national legislation this quality term, there was Spain, for example. And in Spain, we don't expect any specific change, in relation to the optional quality term, because in Spain, what we've heard from our members is that the regional quality terms and labels are much more important for the marketing of products. And so there is no reason there, as far as we understand, to use this tool, at least for the moment. And again, this is fine. We just need to understand in what condition it makes sense to use it. The second conclusion is that we need to further explore the complementarity with the other quality schemes. We also need to promote, when the countries want to use the quality term, that there is an actual, that there is a logo, that there is a proper dissemination campaign behind, and that it's not just something in between, when there is a bit of implementation, but it doesn't go far enough to actually make an impact on the ground or to create an uptake on the ground. Also, there is no EU level recognitions by consumers, and so that's not what this label is supposed to be. I mean, it's optional, and each country will have its logo, but it's important to for people to know that they should not expect the EU flag on this. And the last is really there is a lack of data on the impact that this optional quality term has on farmers and local economies. And as Euromontana, we will do our best to find ways, hopefully with our colleagues from Moving, to add a little bit more flesh to this study that we did and understand better the impact on the value chains. That's all I wanted to say.